and welcome to another episode of Leader Generation brought to you by Mata. I'm your host, Tessa Burg, and today I am joined by Shaheen Samavati. She's the co-founder of Vera Content and an expert in content creation, development, and distribution in a global environment. Shaheen, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So we have been spending a lot of time on this podcast just talking about how different areas of thought leadership, expertise, and skills in marketing are evolving as a result of AI being introduced to our lives and just in general how we get work done. What have you seen overall as the impact of AI in content development?
Yeah, so clearly this is something that's been at the top of my mind, being someone I'm a founder and CEO of a content creation agency. So Vera Content, we basically do multilingual content creation projects for global brands. And our bread and butter is creating the content for these large ongoing projects. We do blogs, we do social media projects. So we're creating large amounts of content and we're using human teams to do that, at least historically. I mean, basically over the past several years, there's been the introduction of AI tools out there, even before ChatGPT came onto the scene. So it was something that we were looking into and thinking about how we might adopt these things, because we're always looking at how to use automation in our processes. And I'd say even before ChatGPT, we were using some AI tools for things like transcriptions and things like that. And then now with I'd say the vast improvement in the quality of content generation capabilities of these large language models, we've really had to think about, okay, now, and also just the publicity around it when ChatGPT came out, that every client was expecting, okay, how are you going to use this to speed up your processes? And we're like, well, we're already being very efficient in our processes. We're using these tools, but okay, now we have to also see how we can use ChatGPT specifically. And of course, we also, so we spent a lot of time, we actually created a task force in our company to analyze how we could use ChatGPT or other similar large language models, tools that use them in our processes. And so we tested more than 20 tools. So, and we've developed some best practices within our company now and how we're using them. But yeah, what was the original question? I went on a tangent.
Oh, no, I'm glad you gave us background because it definitely takes adaptable leaders to embrace using AI and sort of go beyond just accepting that it's here and it's going to change the way we work, but use it in a way that does elevate the work itself, elevates creativity, elevates accuracy and distribution. And you're the perfect leader to do that because you were originally from the United States, but now your company as a global content agency is located in Spain. Tell us a little bit more about that journey and where the concept for Vera Content came from.
Yeah, so my background is as a journalist. So I'm actually from Cleveland area, Akron, Ohio, and I worked at the Cleveland Plain Dealer and other newspapers, and basically I have that background in newspaper journalism. I think has really influenced the vision that I've had for Vera Content. But in between, I did an MBA in Spain. That's why I originally went there. And after that, I worked in communications and marketing, and I led marketing at a scale-up company. So basically, I had to create large amounts of content, doing that within a company and seeing the challenges that were around that and how it was difficult to find partners who should help with that, basically. And I saw the opportunity there. So that's why I originally started Vera Content, especially in Europe, because there's so much need for multilingual content. Obviously, a lot of demand for English content. So that's kind of how I got into it, being an American in Europe. Everyone wants English marketing content to reach global audiences. So I started working with European scale-up and larger companies who were growing their content operations and helping them do that. And then I saw that there's demand for more languages. So we started, basically, I founded the company with 2 business partners. We started building out our capacity to work in more languages. And it's really like a chicken and egg thing where, you really have to have the team in place to be able to ensure the quality. But you have to be able to judge quality to make the right team. So it's it takes time to build that capacity, basically. And that's what we've been doing with Vera. So
that's awesome. So Tell me a little bit more about building the team. So you do have so many different languages you have to accommodate. Has AI played any role in giving the team maybe some more flexibility or capacity as you're trying to serve so many diverse target audiences?
Yeah, so our expertise definitely is having those human linguists who are experts in the language and experts in marketing in their home market. So we have people who are like based in each of the markets, who know the market, who are up to date on local trends. And I think that AI has, I mean, as I was saying, it's been like since the beginning of the company, like AI in some capacity has been around for a while. So we've been using things like AI transcription for like a really long time. And that's something that allows us to like repurpose content. For example, we do an interview, like we can transcribe that and then we can use that to create different pieces of content out of it. I'm sure as a podcast host, you probably use some AI transcription for getting your, I don't know, it's a common tool now, but so, and things like adding subtitles. I mean, obviously with translation itself, localization, I mean, we've been using a cat tool that has some AI features built into it and that they've been growing over time. So really it was, AI goes a lot further than like only the generative AI, I guess, function of tools like ChatGPT. But of course, now that has advanced so much, because that's something that we had even been looking into before ChatGPT. Like there was the GPT language model available in the API that a lot of other tools were using, and there's things like Jasper and Writer and other tools that we had been testing, but really like 3 years ago, they just were this is like going to take a long time before it can ever do anything compared to a human. And then came like the next versions of the GPT language model. Like by the time we got to GPT-4, it was like quite impressive. And it's like, okay, we really have to take this seriously and see how we can incorporate it into our processes. And I think it's something that like I see how it's amazing for like entrepreneurs or someone who is creating content like they're kind of the thought leader and they just want to like proliferate their ideas. And I think that like that these kind of tools can help you, like if you have the content and the basis, it's really easy to like create lots of content from that, but you need something like quality to put in order to get the results out. And I think it's difficult to scale that. So when you're like a larger company and you want to like lots of companies or our clients are coming to us and say, okay, I want to do more and more content using AI. And it's like, it's not so simple to just like push a button and get a lot more content out of it, because what the results you're going to get from that aren't probably going to meet your expectations. So I think it's a lot about creating those processes to make sure that you're consistently getting good results out of the AI. And that for us, that's been like creating a lot of guidelines for how we use AI, when we use it, in what circumstances. And I think that's the challenge. When you're working with a team, it's like a whole other level than if you're just like one person who wants to create content yourself, right? So that's
yeah, no, I definitely can relate to that challenge. We, as an industry, I think spent like the last year testing lots of different apps and getting really comfortable with ChatGPT as a part of the process. And we've seen a lot of benefits, including saving time, boosting creativity, but then scaling it and actually having any one tool be enterprise-wide for the purpose of creating quality and elevating the experience for your clients is a different challenge. You know, it's not enough to be like, oh, we love this tool, let's just go ahead and use it, or just have everyone use it. Like you have to have that process, those standards, those quality checks in place first.
Yeah, absolutely. And for us, it's been like with every single client project, like seeing whether it makes sense to use the tool in some way or not. And for each project, like creating guidelines, creating like custom prompts that's like, okay, if you're going to use it, like use this prompt, don't do this way, do it this way. So it's a lot of a lot of documentation and things that go into, I think, using the tool well.
Yeah, so you have to really believe that the quality is going to be higher, because while there's some time savings, it ultimately gets invested into a different area. Like
yeah, absolutely. And actually, we've done a lot of testing on that, just because clearly like the goal is efficiency, and it's like, okay, can we speed up? And for some types of content creation, it's not very helpful at all. Like when we're writing something that's like a really unique piece of content, that it needs to be maybe that like has a specific format that it's not like formulaic. I would say when we're doing like for example, we have some projects that it's like, we're always going to do a certain type of article in this format. And so we can create like a custom GPT that says, okay, input these things and then get an outline of the article. And then we can like use that as a basis that speeds up things for the content creator. But then there's other things that are not so formulaic that it's just not that useful to use the tool. And I think, yeah, it really depends on the particular project.
I think a lot of content requires actual human deep expertise in specific areas, even if you're just checking the content. And our use of ChatGPT so far, when we use the publicly available version, is that all the insight that it brings back is like solidly mediocre, you know, and if you are looking at it to improve quality so that you can justify, you know, these additional processes, these skill trainings, what you're investing in the tools themselves, it's really important that you don't lose that person expertise in the process.
Yeah, that's what I was actually getting at. Is like the results you get out of it are only as good as what you put in. So it's really important that you're putting in some unique insights in the beginning if you want to get an article that includes those insights, because it's obviously not going to come up with those things. Like it's only really good for, I mean, it can be good for brainstorming and thinking about things in a way that maybe you didn't, like you know, asking it for a bunch of different potential titles for something. It might like jog an idea in your head. In my experience, I almost never use the options that it gives me, but it might help me think of something good. And then the other is like formatting, like, because a lot of times you have content in one format and it really can help you put it in another. So for example, yeah, like you have a blog post, you want a social media post about it, it can generate that for you. And then you can rewrite it or have a writer on your team rewrite it. But it's I think it can, like, repurposing content, I'd say, is like our number one use. We almost never relying on it to actually create the content.
So you can save time in sort of research, brainstorming ideas, summarizing transcripts, repurposing content. But what you're finding is don't lose the expertise in the industry, in the subject matter, and in those local, the localization expertise for different cultures and different reasons to engage in content. Another area that we've seen ChatGPT and really generative AI have an impact is how people interact with content in general. Like whenever we've done B2B content campaigns, we always have an element of SEO baked in. Like we want to be cognizant, or we're very aware that 80% of the content is discovered through Google. Have you found that people going now to ChatGPT to get advice, to learn more, has impacted the way content is discovered and consumed?
I mean, yes, absolutely. It seems to be going the way. I mean, even Google now has its AI summary that you can see. So I think that, yeah, everything's going in the direction that people are using these chat tools to search. I think the good news is that the criteria for like what it shows you, like what comes up as the top results, seem to be similar to what search engines use. So for example, if you have really well optimized blog posts or content on your website and that's been ranking well in Google, chances are if you ask a question related to that to ChatGPT, there's a high chance you would like show up in the results if you are among the top results in Google. So it does seem that like best practice of SEO does seem to help for, you know, ranking in ChatGPT results as well.
Has anyone expressed any concern around like loss of traffic? Like since ChatGPT doesn't have links back to websites?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's not something that we've heard a lot of concern from our clients yet, but yeah, it's definitely, I mean, actually ChatGPT does give links in some cases. Like I was actually testing the other day, just searching for multilingual content agencies and seeing if it showed up, and it didn't link to my website, but it linked to a blog post that recommended us. So okay. There can be like a link chain from ChatGPT. So it kind of like gave me, I said, like, asked for the top agencies, it gave me like its top 10, and then it gave me a link kind of like justifying, you know, like as a source for each one.
So maybe a more research and discovery type questions, almost early customer journey, probably not because they're broad, but more bottom funnel types of queries, it will give you exact answers. Yeah, that's it. We also have not had anyone start seeing major traffic drops.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's probably just indicative of people still using Google a lot for when they need really some more bottom funnel queries, or to make sure that whatever they got in ChatGPT was accurate. Like I found myself doing that. Like I'll brainstorm and get ideas from ChatGPT, but then I'll be like, okay, let me just make sure this is real, because I'm so
Yeah,
aware of
absolutely.
hallucinations, in the
Yeah.
tool. And I have not found the Google AI summaries to be helpful at all. So I feel like ultimately maybe it
Oh no,
will all
yeah.
be there, but they are like,
I like don't trust the Google AI summaries at all. Like half the time it
yeah,
tells me that it's something totally wrong. So I trust the search results a lot more than that. Yeah.
yes, no, I agree. So what are some other considerations when we're thinking about, the way that we're creating content is different, the way people are interacting or finding content is different. And when we expand this out to a global environment where there are, you know, different standards, like localization is different around the world and especially in Europe, what are other considerations that content developers have to take into account?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really exciting that like it's enabling more communication across different languages. Like, I feel like if you have a general notion of another language, I think like these large language models can really help you like communicate better in that other language. I think it is dangerous when you have no knowledge of the other language to rely on those tools to like
Yeah.
create content in that language for you. Um, like it's still because obviously they're not perfect, and I don't know if they ever will be. So at least for now, it's like it's super important to have a human involved in that process who really understands the message that needs to get across. I think yeah, I know there's also these tools for like language dubbing, so you can make a video of yourself or take any marketing video you might have and like run it through this tool, and it'll create audio voiceover like using AI that even sounds like the same person's voice and it's in the other language. But actually, some of these tools allow you to edit, so I think they all will eventually. Like there's one called Rask that is really cool that has like basically similar to a cat tool within it. Like it does the translation for you, and then you have the translation side by side, and then you can go in and edit the transcription so to make sure that it's accurate. And I think like I would never put out a marketing video with an AI voiceover for any
Right.
reputable brand without having like someone really check that. Be very
That's,
embarrassing if you didn't.
yeah,
So
that is very cool. I mean, one of the areas that we focus in is a lot of B2B marketing, a lot of manufacturing, energy, transportation, skilled labor. And right now in those sectors, knowledge transfer, training and upskilling is huge. And it is
mhm.
for sure going across multiple languages. So I love this idea of using something like Rask to help
Mhm.
automate that, and then make sure you're not losing the person expertise to go back and
Mhm.
edit. But still, it saves a ton of time. I mean, as someone who's been in these
Yeah.
times, like, and I think, we're at this unique point, not just with AI, but that there's so many different generations in the workplace, and how
Mhm.
important it is to make sure that we're not losing that knowledge and expertise from people who have been at the company for 25, 30, some 40 years.
Mhm.
And just like we're talking about with content development, there's so much humanness that you don't want to lose from
Mhm.
those jobs. And, capturing transcriptions, capturing audio interviews is a great way to ensure that, you don't lose that knowledge and skill.
And actually, one challenge with like localizing audiovisual content is that having to like line up the timings of everything, and that's something that AI tools really help with. Like this tool, Rask, for example, it really like puts side by side, and it automatically like adjusts the lengths of like using AI. It like adjusts the phrasing to match the same amount of space that you have like in time, so that it's so that it matches up, because like when you're doing a dub, it's sometimes in Spanish it takes like way more words to say something than in English, for example, or any language. But I find that like using the AI tool to do that, even if you are planning to do like a lot of brands don't want to use AI voices, they're not ready for that. They're not convincing enough. It's the uncanny valley thing. So it's like, but I think it's still a good idea to use a tool like that to speed up the process of matching up, and like just and making sure that the language lines up, like the timings, and then you can have a human record it afterwards. So
I love that solution. So I took a note of that tool. We love
yeah.
discovering and testing new tools. What are some of your other favorite tools that you're using in your process?
Yeah, I would say, well, besides Rask, we also use for audiovisual stuff. Subly is a tool we really like because it works in a lot of languages and it's really quick for adding subtitles to videos. In that same vein, there's a lot of like video tools like Beat.io and Descript, and we actually are using like depending on the project because there's so many tools that have like one capability and one has one and one doesn't have the other. So yeah, I won't go into the details of all of the all of the different functionalities, but we found like for example, Descript has the option to do inline editing. Like you can, mark out text and it automatically moves it from the video, and that's really useful for like talking head videos. But then we have other editing tools like Veed that are more useful for creating like social media type videos. So there's that. And then when it comes to like text content creation, I'd say like our favorite tool and the thing we use the most is Grammarly, which of course was not seen as an AI tool, but they've added in a lot of AI features, and it's really powerful. The like style guide features that it has. Of course, Grammarly only works in English, so we use Grammarly for English projects, and we have another tool that we use for other languages, which is called Language Tool, that has some of the functionality of Grammarly, and it also has the ability to create style guides. And for us, like working on projects when there's like so many different writers involved, like having consistency and making sure everyone's like using the same terminology, like characterizing the brand the same way and everything, like being able to create rules around that. And you can basically have, when you have a kind of premium company account on either of these, you can have like things flagged, like while you're working in a Google Doc, it says like, hey, that's not how you write that, basically. So creating your own custom rules. And then using custom GPTs in ChatGPT is also something we've been implementing, and that's in terms of like generative AI for writing, that's the tool we're using right now, even though we've investigated tons of them. But we found that that custom GPT feature has been really useful to be able to just basically share pre-made prompts like across the team using that.
Oh, I love, I was
particular
going to ask,
projects.
what are the custom GPTs doing? That
Mhm.
is a great idea. We started using the OpenAI API to create brand agents that are specific to the knowledge, brand guidelines, style of that brand for a very similar reason. And I love the idea of connecting that with localization tools, with like Grammarly or a language tool, because if that has an API, then you can get in those localization standards as well for when you are starting to distribute that campaign globally, or even just generate ideas and make sure that it stays within the voice of the clients in that market.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of localization software is also like adding in AI features. Like we use one called Phrase. That's what we use for like translation management and localization management. And they've added in this like I forget what the name of it is, but that basically will like suggest ways to rephrase things and stuff within the translation tool, which is really cool. And like I think it's only going in that direction. Like if you're not already like proactively adopting AI, I think everyone is going to end up adopting a lot of it because so many of the tools we're already using are just integrating more and more AI features. So that's what we found.
Yeah, no, we have found the same thing when we started. Man, I feel like 2018 is when we really started using AI-enabled tools as part of our process. And we called it like the AI tech stack. Like these are the things that are AI, and we'll build some of our own solutions. And now it really is just the tech stack. And you have to be aware of where AI is being used and the data that's going in and out, quality standards, it's more, we have to look at our whole tech stack as AI enabled and apply the same sort of caution that we're using ChatGPT to everything we do. But we have found that the quality is better. So it's worth, again, like we're at a point where we're starting to scale it enterprise wide. So we're having the upskill and the training, but until everyone has seamlessly integrated this and we have custom GPTs, or for us, we're building a library of agents to automate checking quality standards. I'm not sure we're going to see those significant time savings that you get as an individual. I feel like on an individual basis, you're like, oh my gosh, this is how this works. And if you're a 3-4 person agency, like you said before, like really small companies, entrepreneurs, they probably see the time savings immediately. But then when you move to enterprise level, doing things for multiple markets, like over 3 markets, like it requires a level of discipline that it requires more time investment to get it stood up.
I find too, like, why it's so advantageous for like an individual, someone who's not a writer and needs help writing, it can help you with that. But when you're in, like in our case, we're all professional writers. Everyone's very efficient at their jobs already. Like the people who write for us, that's all they do all day long is write. So having this tool doesn't always speed up their time that much, basically. I would say like we have like been comparing how long it takes us to write an article with and without the tool. And I would say it's not a huge significant time savings, but the results are better and like the level of consistency is better because of like we said, creating these rules, make sure that we're using the right tone of voice, using the right terminology. So, and we're always like being consistent in the format and all these things. Like we don't make maybe human mistakes that we would have made in terms of like the output, but I feel like the actual time it takes to create the content has not been shaved off very much in our case.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like AI, like everyone getting more comfortable realizing what it can do and what it can't do is actually elevating the value of expertise as much as it is data. Like I think people are realizing like, oh my gosh, the AI is only as good as the data that comes in. Well, it's also only as good as the person using it and their expertise and experience within that field, within that culture, within that industry, or else you will not get the true lift in performance or the true lift in what it can do creatively and creating new experiences that really resonate and are personalized to the consumer, to your target audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree.
So Shaheen, this has been a great conversation and I've learned a lot. I've jotted down a lot of tools I'd love to test. If other people want to reach out to you and learn more, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, definitely our website, veracontent.com, or LinkedIn, Shaheen Samavati.
Perfect. And if you want to hear other episodes of Leader Generation, you can visit modop.com. That's modop.com. We'll have the notes from this interview on the website, as well as all the tools mentioned in case you want to explore for yourself. And Shaheen, I hope we get another chance to talk soon. But until then, thanks so much for being our guest.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.